Hey guys, Akil here. If you frequent the podcast, and you know that a common theme to success is productivity and efficiency. And that's exactly why I chose Spotify for podcasters. Not only can I schedule, edit, and monetize from a single place, but I can also record from my phone, just in case one of those random ideas pops into my head and I got to get it out before I forget about it. Spotify for podcasters also helps me take the conversation to you guys, the fans, by allowing me to do video, share polls, and ask questions, which is, well, what keeps the show rolling. So if you're looking for the easiest way to streamline the podcasting process and maybe, put a few extra bucks in your pocket at the end of each month, check out Spotify for podcasters. I use it. I love it. I recommend it. Today we're going to talk about developing your eye as a trader. And this is a subject that I love so much because developing your eye is something that I have done over the years. It is something that I will continue to do in years to come. And I always say that the thing that I love the most about trading is I feel like it's one of those carrots on a string being dangled in front of us where we're kind of reaching for perfection and mastery. And although we will never technically ever get there, it's always motivating because it's right in front of us. And if you are a true chartist, if you are a true kind of geek and a nerd about the markets, I'm sure you feel the same way. Also, if you're a newer trader who is struggling with your recognition, meaning that you're seeing all this stuff on the internet or seeing all this stuff in books, but you get overwhelmed perhaps when you see it in the charts, this is going to be a perfect podcast for you because it's going to talk to you about the step-by-step process of learning and how to make things become easier as you gain experience. So check it out. But I think, one of the things in trading, and especially as you're going through the learning process, is you want to see as many live examples as possible of different trades. So I like sharing these ideas so you can see not only how frequent these things are in the market, but kind of the different versions of them. Because again, especially as a newer trader, recognition is hard. Where we try to do a good job of showing kind of smooth and unsmooth examples, but most of the time, and whenever you're doing some type of training, the examples are smooth and beautiful. They are like I'm gonna get myself in trouble here. You ever go on a first date and whoever you're dating, they're dressed up all nice and they got their makeup on and they've spent like 4 hours doing it to look perfect, and you're like, oh man, they look good. And then by year 5 of marriage, that makeup doesn't go on anymore. You're like, "Ooh, hey now," right? You want to get a good idea. Just kidding, of course. But you want to get a good idea of what the things really look like. And we'll probably talk about this, if I remember, in our conversation later in the coffee break. But that's one of my big problems with price, like learning technical analysis from books, is a lot of books give you picture perfect examples. And I get it. I understand it, because in order to teach, you have to give an example that is easily digestible. But the problem with like people thinking they can just learn from books or learn from videos that show these picture perfect examples is that in real life, that's not the case, right? In real life, how many beautiful pattern setups have you seen? They come every once in a while, but a lot of them are dirty and crummy looking, right? It is the difference. I remember my dad did this to me. He tricked me, actually. But when I first started learning how to drive a car, he would take me out 5 o'clock in the morning. We'd go in the middle of the mall parking lot where no one's there. And we would just drive and we'd pretend like the little parking spaces are lanes and we do all the stuff, right? So nice, easy, closed environment, closed course where I can practice all the stuff I need to practice. Then he elevated me to going out 5 o'clock in the morning on some of the local roads around my neighborhood, right? Everyone's asleep 5 o'clock in the morning. So nice and controlled. It's a little bit more realistic because it's actually a road and there's a car every once in a while, but nothing that is crazy. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think I'd become a good driver if I simply stayed in the mall parking lot? I can turn, I can shift gears. We had a manual, right? We can shift gears, I can reverse, right? But that's not really preparing me for the real world. So I remember one day we elevated from mall parking lot to driving on kind of the regular roads, 5 o'clock in the morning, right? And then one day, he's giving me directions and he's like, make a right here. All right, I'm gonna merge left over here. All right, we're gonna, do this here. And before you know it, I'm on the highway. And he's like, figure it out, son. And then he just shuts up. And I had to figure it out on the highway. Now it was still 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's not a super busy highway, but you can imagine the shock of like a young, 16-year-old, 15-year-old, however long I was, just on the highway. And he's like, figure it out, son. Like those birds in the videos I tell you about the other day, where the birds have this, they lay a nest on the top of this big hill because that's where no predators are at. And the first thing that happens is like the bird is born and it stumbles out the nest and it's got to figure out how to fly and use its wings before it hits the ground and dies. Like that's what my dad did to me. He said, figure it out. As he straps his seatbelt on, he puts on like his helmet. But the point is, I needed to be elevated to what real driving was to get that experience. And then of course I'm on the highway and I'm like, Dad, that guy didn't use his turn signal. Oh, Dad, he's going too fast, right? He passed me on the right, like all the rules that we're supposed to follow. And he's like, yup, welcome to the real world. People aren't going to do all that stuff, right? Use a different word. People aren't going to do all that stuff they say in the manual. Figure it out, right? And then he had the whole spiel about driving, being defensive and understand that people are not going to do what you expect them to do. So you always got to be on defense and blah, 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 blah. But that's what you needed to actually learn. If I would have just stayed on the closed course, I'd be a horrible driver. I'd probably crash. So I get books, I get tutorials and videos because you have to start somewhere. If I would have gone right into the highway on day one, right, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. But the closed course isn't enough. It's not enough. There has to be more to it. And that's what I think the value is in, and that's, the value in having live sessions like this, where you can be like, man, that Gartley doesn't look as beautiful as the one in course number 3, but it's still a valid Gartley. Or, hey, that double bottom, is that, right? Your eyes get used to seeing the dirty version of them. And then you start to develop a filter, right? Because if you're only looking for picture perfect opportunities, you're only going to find a handful of them, right? If you were to do 5 years of back testing and you were to look for picture perfect, let's say double tops and double bottoms, you may find 10, right? I'm just throwing out random numbers, but you may find 10. Now what happens is, and you guys have been here before, as you develop your RAS and you start, and some of the dirtier ones start looking cleaner to you, you can do the same back testing over that same period of time, same pair, same everything. And now all of a sudden you found 50. And the thing is well, what's the difference? How come I only found 10 the first time? How come I found 50 this time? Because you've trained your eyes. Your eyes have adapted to seeing things differently. And now you're able to uncover things that you haven't been able to before. Right? You guys ever watched the movie Inception? Or any mystery movie? Think about any type of mystery movie, spy movie. Inception's one for me because I still haven't figured that one out. But the first time you watch it, you're just watching it, and then the end comes, you're like, oh man, surprise, oh my gosh. You watch it again, you start noticing the little clues throughout. You're like, oh, that's, he did, foreshadowing, right? And then you watch it again, you start figuring out more and more, right? The markets are the same way. The more we watch it and the more we understand what we're actually looking for, the better we become at seeing different things. This is the last example, the same trick that we always use about looking around the house, right? I always use this thing for your RAS where it's hey, look around the room and you pick out everything that's blue and then you spend 5 minutes doing it, and I bring you in and be like, hey, now tell me everything that's red. And you're like, right? Because your RAS was focused only on blue, that you completely ignored everything that's red. But imagine doing that a different way where it's hey, look around your room right now and you have 1 minute to pick out everything that's blue. You may pick out a handful of things, so you have 1 minute. Now, if you did that every day, you're going to find more and more things. Why? Because now you already know the obvious things that are blue. Tax bill, tissue box, poster, cup, right? So you no longer need to waste brain space on that. Now you start seeing the little things. Oh, pen. Oh, the little light on my charger. Oh, that other cup over there. Oh, blue Sharpie marker by the whiteboards, right? You start seeing more and more and more and more because now the easy stuff isn't as hard to find. So you can spend less energy on finding the easy stuff and more energy finding the harder stuff. And that's what testing and not just testing, but any type of rep in the market does for you. Reps in the market make the easy stuff easier to find. That way you can invest more energy on the harder stuff. And then eventually the harder stuff becomes easy. And then you start uncovering other stuff that you didn't even notice before. And that's the brilliance of trading, because once the hard stuff becomes easy, you start noticing things that you never ever paid attention to before. Tandy this morning, right? Didn't know about inside bars. Now you do. Now that's something that will pop out to you in the market when you see it. Like, that's what I love about trading. There's always something to discover. And I've been doing this for 16 years and there's still more to discover. And I'm sure there's still stuff that I have no idea that's out there that's discoverable. And that's what brings me up to the markets and gets me excited each and every day. So that's cool stuff. So this episode came from another one of our live trading room discussions. Again, if you're interested in spending some time with traders on a regular basis in a live environment where we mark up the charts, we find trading ideas, and we just talk trading for a few hours each day, make sure you check out our live room sessions. We have a London session and a New York session. We run them every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Just head over to www.tier1trading.com and become a part of it.